So now we're going to look at an arm drag from standing, looking to get behind our opponent, and then ways of taking them down from that position where we're behind an opponent standing, and then some of the ways Yusuf might defend against that position as well. Okay, so as always, we start in a good wrestling stance, so we're not vulnerable, our arms aren't extended, we're not high in the hip. We'll be here. Okay, arm drags usually will come off some form of wrist control. So just for a basic way of entering into an arm drag, I'll look to control Yusuf's wrist here with the same side grip. Cross grip goes high into the armpit like this. I'm chopping up with my thumb and I'm trying to feed this arm across. The whole purpose of an arm drag is to get that arm out my way so I can get round behind my opponent. So I'm controlling the wrist, going high here, get the arm out my way, and then I'm going to drag. So I'm going to both pull Yusuf and try and run my body around behind him at the same time. So here. So once I'm around behind Yusuf here, my objective is to try and connect into a position where it's hard for Yusuf to escape. If I don't connect properly, Yusuf can just turn in straight away and take away that angle I've created. He can counter me. So it's really important that the arm drag is clean and I get around and immediately my head comes in. Look how my head's connected to his back. And I've put one leg forward. On the same side, that arm goes nice and deep round his hip. I then collect that hand with my other hand here, and I'm squeezing nice and tight. So as Yusuf tries to turn and get out, I can just move my feet to maintain control, okay? There are lots of different takedowns from this position, and usually what I'm looking for is where Yusuf's posture is. If his head is up as it is now, I can lift him or I can take him backwards. If his head starts to drop lower down towards the mat, trying to take him backwards is both inefficient, it's going to take a lot of energy, but also it can hurt his knees because his posture isn't going with it. So usually in this position, I'm just going to have a feel like I'm going to check, his head's up, so I'm going to think of how to take him backwards. A very basic way of taking them backwards is to load their hip. So I'm going to drop lower and pull on his hip. And as his feet load with his weight, I'm going to just momentarily tap behind his calf with my trail leg here. What that does is it stops him from being out of step. So I tap the leg and then I start to pull his hip to the mat. From here, I drop my trail into the mat, put my head over the shoulder here, and then we can start looking for either seatbelt opportunities or going straight into rear naked chokes. So once again, always start with a good stance. Wrestling stance here, knees bent, arms in close, elbows towards my body. From here, I go for a same side grip, thumb chops into the armpit as I feed that hand across. As that happens, I pull on Yusuf's arm and I run around behind him, connecting into this position where my head is very close. I'm pulling my shoulder in. I connect my hands together. Okay, as I said, I'm checking for Yusuf's posture. If he's upright, a basic way of taking him down is by tapping the leg, sinking him to the mat. If he starts to lean forwards, then I'll be looking to take him forwards. A basic way of doing that kind of takedown is with just what's called a gut wrench. So as his hands come forward, I'm going to connect my hands very tight. I can either go S grip or palm to palm. And then I try and get my shoulder nice and heavy on his shoulder blades here. So I want to pull myself in like this. From this position, all I look to do now is do like a circular sprawl. So my feet start to go back and I drop to my knee, and that pulls Yusuf down to the mat here. Even if he posts his hands on the mat, it's quite difficult for him to maintain those posts because I've got both my weight and his weight on him. So that second takedown, if they're leaning forward, was this. I just come forward, put my shoulder on top. Then even if he's posting his hands, the circular motion rotates his hip around that post and pulls him down to the mat. Okay, so that's how we enter into an arm drag and some takedowns. We're now going to look at some ways Yusuf can defend that position. It's really important we know how to react to an opponent who's trying to get behind us. Okay, so wrestling starts, I enter into this position. As I go to arm drag, we already know it's about me trying to maintain this position as an attacking person. So as I start to reach my hands together, Yusuf knows if my hands connect together, he's in danger. So he's going to reach for my hands here and prevent them from getting into contact. He's going to start to extend his arms and push down. And as he does that, he leans back into me and starts to clear his hip away from me. So now I can't reach for his hip. From here now, his objective will be to take away the angle I've created. So he's going to start to drop a hand behind him, rotate in, and then usually there's counter opportunities as he comes back in for hip throws and for body clinches. So we have a look at that one more time here. I go for an arm drag, same side, feed the arm across, run round. He prevents me from establishing a grip. His hips come forward, he's leaning back in so that when I push in, he's got base. He then is going to clear the hand across, start to turn in, back into a neutral position. Okay, one other thing we're going to look at is if an opponent starts to try and lift us from the back. So this time, as I get into an arm drag, my hands are going to connect here, okay? So from here, you can look for Kimuras. Within our fundamental sequence, we encourage people to grab the wrist, look for a Kimura, and then he's going to use that to drive me to the mat. That's a really good move, but we need to be aware that being picked up in this position, particularly if it's a self-defense or MMA scenario, is really dangerous. So as Yusuf goes to reach for that Kimura, what can happen if I'm strong is I can put my hip in and start to lift Yusuf. And then on concrete, I can drop his head to the mat. It can be really dangerous. So as Yusuf feels me coming in to put my hip in, Yusuf is going to drop one hand to the mat. So he's then going to post on my leg as well. What that does is it creates a really strong frame, and I can't now pursue his back. I can't put this in as a hook here. I'll be usually trying to rag him around, and Yusuf just needs to maintain balance in this position. If I try and pick him up here, it's impossible. His head's so low, I can't really get a good enough leverage, okay? He's then just going to wait for an opportunity. When he feels me start to lift a bit of weight off, he's going to post this hand that's on the mat inside my hands and start to push down. And in the same way he did before, he's going to push his hip forward through that and start to break my grip. He then can do the same as he did before, turn in into a dominant position. One more time. So from here, arm drag. We're now looking at when the arms connect together. Okay, so his first option would be Kimura, but if I'm starting to pick him up, he goes one hand on the mat and he blocks my leg so I can't put a hook in and start to establish a back control. It's really important he doesn't rush this phase. If he stands up too early, then once again he puts himself into danger. So he's going to wait. As I start to lift, as he feels me start to relax maybe, he's going to then post his thumb inside the grip, and then he goes to a strong posture, pushing his hips forward. He can then go two hands on and break my grip, and then he turns in, saving himself from the danger.